Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends. Over the weekend, this was the big move by the left to send a message to Trump, to MAGA, to Trump supporters, to the media, to the world, that here in the United States, we don't have kings. I.e., that Donald Trump, according now to these protesters, and they were all over the country. I'm talking over 2,000 cities and towns, millions of people all over the United States protested what they said was Trump now becoming a dictator, an authoritarian strongman, a king. And many called for his overthrow, saying that just as we overthrew King George III in 1776, now it's time for a second American Revolution, this time to overthrow King Donald. The problem, however, was turnout was nowhere near what they expected. In fact, I'm going to get to this in just a few minutes. The media now has been caught in a massive scandal, lying, inflating the numbers of how many people actually showed up. And moreover, if you actually looked and attended these events or looked at them online or saw the videos that are coming out, honestly, it looked more like Halloween. Like Halloween came a couple of weeks early than some kind of a serious, credible protest movement. Now, before I say anything else, this needs to be said. The Democrats should be ashamed of themselves. The media should be ashamed of themselves. And just when you thought that they couldn't go any lower, they were selling Saturday in particular, is when the major No Kings marches took place, these protests, as if 7, 10, 15 million Americans showed up. The media was saying this was the largest protest in the history of the United States. It is a lie. It was a massive, massive, massive lie. And in fact, they inflated the numbers by 10, literally by 10. So no, it wasn't 15 million. It wasn't 10 million. It wasn't 7 million. It was at best maybe a couple million across the entire country. And to give you an example, my friends, and I pointed this out on X, and I don't know how MSNBC keeps their broadcast license after this. On Saturday, as you know, Marxist Michelle Wu, the mayor of Boston, not like she doesn't have anything else better to do. I mean, God forbid you should clean up the drug epidemic, the homeless encampments. I don't know. Help ICE arrest, detain, and deport rapists and murderers and child sex predators and drug traffickers. I mean, I could go on and on. No. She led the No Kings rally here in Boston, just like Chuck Schumer led the No Kings rally in New York, and just like Adam Piece of Schiff led the No Kings rally in D.C. So the Democrats were out in full force to try to get as much of their party behind this movement. And so what MSNBC did, they looked at the turnout, and this is what shocked them in Boston. By the way, across most of the country, but in Boston was very acute. Number one, as NBC 10's Sue O'Connell, a reporter, had to admit on the air, this is mostly older people. In fact, most of these people are quote-unquote white hair folks. In other words, these were not young protesters. These weren't minorities. This wasn't the brown and black coalition that the Democrats say were now being oppressed and persecuted by this Hitler, Nazi, white supremacist president. They were essentially the NPR watching ex-hippie liberals who were giving it one last kick at the can before they kicked the bucket. I'm not kidding. It's almost like, well, it was, 60 years ago we protested Vietnam. Let's go one last time. These were all the people who were, the Jane Fondas and those who protested the Vietnam War. And they came out, many of them in their 70s, 80s, white hair, elderly, burnt out hippies. This wasn't this diverse coalition that the Democrats said were going to come out by the millions and millions. And then the other thing, and this is now why they're in big trouble, is that they came out and said, Sue O'Connell herself admitted, she said, you're looking at about 2,000 people, maybe 3,000 tops. If you look at the video at Boston Common, there's no way there's more than 3,000 people. I don't even think there's 2,000, to be honest. But let's go, okay, fine, 2,000 people. I'll even give you 3,000 people. So what did MSNBC do? They then rolled out footage, because 3,000 from above, from a helicopter shot or a satellite shot or whatever, from the air, it looks like a sprinkling. You're like, that's it? That's all that showed up in Boston? And remember, Boston was supposed to be one of the hotbeds of this No Kings rally. They said they were going to shake the city and the state to its very foundations. So MSNBC aired fraudulent footage of, do you remember the 2017 rally? I remember because I was there and I covered it, where Mayor Marty Walsh at the time, frightened the hell out of the minority community and said the Klan was coming to Boston. There was a free speech rally being held at the Common, and Black Lives Matter and Marty scared the minority neighborhoods, and they came out 40,000 strong. And they thronged all across Boston Common. There was 40,000 protesters on the streets. What did MSNBC do? They fraudulently aired the footage of the 2017 protest in Boston, in the Common, and then falsely claimed that this was live footage of the No Kings rally in Saturday. And they did this all day Saturday. Look at the scenes in Boston. Look at this. It's a sea of people. Look at this. Young, old, brown, white, black, you name it. Oh my God. Boston Common is full. The streets are full. It's an uprising. And they aired it hour after hour after hour after hour. And that set the trend. By the way, you want to talk about perpetrating a fraud. You want to talk about propaganda. I said this to Grace yesterday. I said, this is literally, that's what they used to do in the Soviet Union. Air fake footage or fraudulent footage or deceptive footage. The FCC needs to step in. This is one of the greatest media frauds, media scandals in the history of the American media. And that's saying something. Where's the FCC? MSNBC should have their license revoked like this, the snap of a finger. And I'm not saying, oh, it was a mistake. Oh, they aired it for 5 seconds and say, what? We just made a mistake. Sorry. No. They played it all day, nonstop. And that's what the media did in other markets. They lied about the number of people who showed up. They kept massively inflating the numbers. And in most cities, this is exactly what local reporters had to admit. What happened in Boston happened there, whether it was New York, whether it was Chicago, whether it was, you name it, pick your city. Okay, whether it was in Atlanta, whether it was, you name your, Portland, it doesn't matter. Name your city. Most of the people who showed up were overwhelmingly elderly, overwhelmingly white, and the numbers were nowhere near what organizers had predicted. Because, my friends, this is the problem, and they can't get around it. We already had a No Kings March. That was in November of 2024. And the people of the United States voted and elected Donald Trump to be president of the United States. What the radical left is now pushing. Okay, the No Kings rally, as I said, more like Halloween came early. So it's not just that the attendance, the crowds, don't believe the media. The videos out there is clearly contradicting everything that they're claiming. It's sad. It's pathetic. Whatever credibility they have left has now been destroyed. And of course, the biggest scandal, and I'm not going to let this one go. I put it up on X, and I hope many of you can go on X and share it to as many friends of yours as possible. They lied about the attendance at the No Kings rally on Saturday here in Boston. MSNBC aired footage of the 2017 Black Lives Matter rally that was held in Boston. I went to the Common. I interviewed people. We did videos on it. I did a whole show, in fact, 2 shows on it. So I was there at the time. So I know exactly, there was a massive crowd. Then Mayor Marty Walsh incited people to come out onto the streets. What they did was they showed the footage of that crowd, and it was about 40,000 people in 2017, and then they lied on the air and falsely claimed that this was the crowd at Saturday's rally, a No Kings rally, when in fact it wasn't 40,000. You're lucky if it was 3,000. Honestly, it was more like 2,000, but I'm going to go 3,000 for the sake of argument. So they took a crowd of 2,000 to 3,000, which is a pittance compared to what they were predicting. I can't tell you how many rallies Kuhner country has had. 5,000, 10,000. And the media dismiss it. They don't even cover it. This is 2,000, 3,000, and they're trying to make it seem like it was 40,000 by showing fake images, fake footage of an event that took place 8 years before. Now, how MSNBC keeps their license is beyond me. How this is not, right now, the biggest media scandal in the country is beyond me. Okay? So, the crowd size was not what they were predicting, and it's not what the media said it was. But it was also the atmosphere. That's why I go on. You say, well, Jeff, what do you mean by Halloween? You led with Halloween. Did Halloween come early? Just stand back. This is their movement. This is their cry. That Donald Trump is a quote-unquote king. That he's a quote-unquote dictator. As Adam Piece of Schiff put it, as Chuck Schumer put it, as Michelle Wu put it. According to them, we're in the midst of an authoritarian takeover. That the country now is being taken over by an autocrat, by an authoritarian strongman. On the one hand, this is what they keep saying over and over, and this is allegedly what the protest was about. And yet, they were dressed as dinosaurs. I swear to you. Cats, frogs, lobsters. Why they were dressed in lobsters, I have no idea. Inflatable costumes. Hot dogs, bananas. It was like a clown show. And many of them, they were dancing to music. It had almost like a festival atmosphere to it. And you see these idiots with these ridiculous costumes. And you ask yourself, did Halloween come? Like, hey, is it Halloween already? No, it's got a couple more weeks before Halloween. And some of them, many of them wearing these like Halloween-like skull ghost masks. And so how can you take these people seriously when you've got someone who is 75, 80, 85 years old in a banana suit or in a frog suit? And then, of course, you had the furries show up. I'm not kidding. People who think they're cats, people who think they're dogs, and this is how they sexually get turned on. Anyway, so they're there in their furry outfits, and this is your supposed big protest against this coming authoritarianism? It was a circus. It was like a circus clown show. And that goes to show you, if you're wearing banana suits and dinosaurs and frog suits, you're not really worried about a dictatorship. Obviously. And the fact, and I said this before, but I'll say it again, you know, it's supposed to be a no kings rally. Well, if Donald Trump was really a king, he wouldn't allow you to have the rally in the first place. Kings don't allow rallies. Kings suppress rallies. Kings ban rallies. Kings call in the military and break up rallies. The fact that they could have not just rallies, but all over the country and block traffic and dress like idiots shows to you the very fact that they had the event proves that Donald Trump is not a king. I mean, like, hello? Mike, how much time left? All right, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me just quickly set everything up. I want to take your calls. The No Kings rally, it's been, boy, they were planning it for weeks. It was very well funded. George Soros it's now come out. The Soros Foundation was the biggest funder of it, he and his son Alex. And they vowed to bring millions and millions and millions to the streets and to shake America to its very core. Instead, at least to me, it turned out to be really a pathetic flop. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so all of these leftists, and by the way, there were Antifa. There's no question about it. In fact, in Houston, they bragged that Antifa was in the crowd. There was Antifa in Chicago. There was Antifa in New York. Apparently, they didn't really show up in Boston. I don't know if they were partying too much on Friday and woke up with a hangover or whatever, but there weren't that many of them in Boston. But, man, they showed up in New York. They were there in Chicago, San Francisco, Houston. But their goal, the goal of the protesters, this No Kings rally, was to overthrow the Trump presidency. They wanted to overthrow Trump from power. And this is the point I'm making. This was a no democracy rally. This wasn't a No Kings rally. They are voting. I know we're a constitutional republic. I say it like 50,000 times. But the fact of the matter is Trump was democratically fairly elected in November 2024. He won the popular vote. He won the electoral college vote. He won every single swing state. If he doesn't have a democratic mandate, nobody has a democratic mandate. And yet, within less than a year of his presidency, they are demanding that he be overthrown. As, for example, when you had Adam Schiff and Chuck Schumer and Michelle Wu come out and say it's time for another American revolution, i.e., it's time to topple our king, King Donald III. So they are the ones who are against democracy. This wasn't a No Kings rally. This was a no democracy rally. So I'm sorry, we had a No Kings March. It was the biggest ever. It's called the November 2024 election. And Donald Trump won. The people elected him. Now, I hate to do this to you this early in the morning. I could almost be sued, frankly, for abuse. So please be gentle with me. Don't call your lawyer. But here is, this guy is still kicking. Here's Marcula. I want to take your money. I want to suck your blood. Listen now to Senator Ed Markey. Yep, he was speaking at a No Kings protest in Newton. And, they rolled him in there. He couldn't find his way to Newton because he doesn't come to Mass practically ever. But they finally got him there. GPS helped. And there he is. Roll cut 10, Mike.
I'm here in Newton at their No Kings rally. Just absolutely unbelievable. You know, they are showing up. They're standing up against the President of the United States who thinks he's a king. He thinks he's a dictator. And Newton is saying no. Massachusetts is saying no to dictators. Thank you, Newton, for what you are doing here today and what Massachusetts is doing on No Kings Day. Thank you.
Yeah, dozens of people. There he is. Now, look, this is not an original point. When was this guy elected to Congress? What was it? 1973? Wait, 1970, 1973? The guy, you want to talk about a king? The guy has been in Washington. He's either been a member of Congress, a U.S. House representative, or a senator for over half a century. Half a century. And you're going to lecture us on kings? Get out of here, you used up hack. By the way, he's got a challenge now from Seth Moulton. Moulton now is going to primary him. And we'll see how far that goes. But I'm telling you, this guy, they get him out of his coffin in Chevy Chase. They throw that cadaver in the back of a car. They drive him over to Newton. He does a 5-minute video, and then they send him back and throw him back in his coffin. 617-266-6868. Okay, this is from Larry on Messenger. Good morning, Jeff. Well, good morning to you, Larry. Kings would never, all caps, let the minority party hold the government hostage with a shutdown either. That's an excellent point. That's an absolutely excellent point. If Trump was any kind of a quote-unquote dictator or king, you think he would let the minority opposition party just shut the government down? No. He'd take out his scepter and he'd say, I decree it open. Arrest Schumer, arrest Hakeem Jeffries, arrest every single Democrat, and throw them in the clink, throw them in the dungeon. Instead, look. And by the way, did you notice, for living under a dictatorship, did you see how they didn't have a care in the world as they protested? They yelled, they screamed, they used all kinds of disgusting profanities, they blocked traffic, they wore their stupid dinosaur and frog and banana suits, and they criticized Trump. Hell, they spit on Trump till the cows came home. Not a care in the world. And you had a fawning media all over them, praising them, lauding them, celebrating and cheering them. But they want us to believe we're living in some kind of a dictatorship? I mean, that's the problem. That's the problem. Okay, this is from Danny, and Danny hit the nail right on the head. Jeff, the protest looked like a visit to downtown Salem, Massachusetts in October. That is so true. Check out the footage of Salem, during October when it's Halloween season versus the protest. You can't tell which is the protest. There were so many costumes on Saturday. I swear I'm looking at this and I'm like, all that's missing is, the bucket, with the little pumpkin bucket, like trick-or-treating. That's all that was missing. Trick or treat, trick or treat. I'm looking at this and I'm like, hey, they have better costumes than my kids do for Halloween. I know I had to buy the kids costumes. What is it, Spirit or whatever it's called? I took them there, 2 weeks ago. By the way, it's not cheap. Those Halloween costumes, it's not like when I was growing up. But let that go. So, Ava's got a great costume. Ashton's got a great costume. I'm telling you, those protesters had better costumes than my kids will have for Halloween. You can't tell the difference? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you, did you attend any of these so-called No Kings rallies or protests? Were you there? What did you see? And what do you make of the fact that the Democrats and the media are saying this was the biggest, largest protest in American history, and that they're now sending Trump a loud and clear message? He is an authoritarian dictator, a strongman, and they are going to overthrow him from power. 617-266-6868. Dave, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent right near Pittsburgh. How are you, Dave?
Good morning, Jeff. How you doing?
Excellent. Now, Dave, they were vowing a big protest in Pittsburgh over the weekend. They said that Pittsburgh was going to rise up against Trump. I know you're on the ground there. What did you see, my friend?
Jeff, me and my wife, Nancy, we took a ride out to a place in Hickory, PA, and then we drove back through Pittsburgh through the Fort Pitt Tunnel, which takes you right past Point State Park, kind of like Boston Common, Jeff. But we looked at Point State Park. There was nobody there. There were more trees than protesters, and then we drove into the city. Jeff, we got through there so fast, we thought we were at a geriatric convention, buddy. I mean, we rolled down the windows, and of course, all you smelled was pot everywhere. You know, they were higher as a kite, Jeff. And Jeff, I'm going to quote you and use your numbers. You're 1,000% right, buddy, because
Dave, can you please hang on, my friend? We got to go to a break. 617-266-6868 is the number. I got a very interesting, I'm going to go right back to Dave in Pennsylvania, I promise. But just very quick, I got a very interesting message from Christina. I won't say her last name. I want to protect her identity. But she said, "Hi, Jeff. My dad is 85 years old and he's conservative." And by the way, a lot of elderly people are conservative, but let that go. Not the crowd that went yesterday, obviously. Those are the ex-hippies who never wised up. But yeah, most elderly people are, with wisdom, with age comes wisdom. And, many of them tend to be conservative. We were talking about the protests yesterday. And this is what Christina said. 2 of my dad's brothers who are younger, and they are retired teachers, went to the protests. My dad never went to college, and he's been very successful. It's very interesting how the teachers went, the retired teachers. I love my aunts and uncles. They are wonderful people. They're just misguided. No, I agree with you. Some of them are misguided, or they're being manipulated or played upon. But what I wanted to get at, because she mentions elderly people that she knows, some are conservative, some are liberal, those on the left side or the liberal side went to the protests. Why? I want to ask all of you, why? Why was it so overwhelmingly elderly? Why were there so many, as Sue O'Connell of NBC 10 put it, quote, white-haired folks? Why did so many younger people not show up? Or why so many minorities didn't show up? It was overwhelmingly white, obviously very liberal, but elderly. Now, why is that? I'm just curious. What's your theory on that? Are they the ones that still watch? And again, there's many conservatives who are elderly. but I'm saying the liberal elderly crowd, are they the only ones left that watch MSNBC and CNN? Like, is that, or listen to NPR? And so that's the demographic that got so frightened over and over and over. Oh, he's a dictator. Oh, he's a Nazi. Oh, he's Hitler. Oh, we got to join this rally or else it's all over. Our republic is coming to an end. We got to go 1776 now. Come on. So what I'm saying is it because that's the only group left that watches CNN and MSNBC and listens to NPR or watches PBS or reads the Boston Globe? I'm just curious. What do you think explains the fact that for so many of these protests, it really was predominantly, really, honestly, former hippies who never wised up? Why was it so overwhelmingly, as Dave in Pennsylvania said, he felt like he was at a geriatric convention? Not that there was many people to begin with, but the people that did show up, white, heavily liberal, and, late 70s, 80s. Let's go right back to Dave in PA, Western PA. Dave, so you were mentioning how you drove through downtown Pittsburgh. You went to their park, the park which is the equivalent of Boston Common, and you were surprised there were more trees than people. There really weren't many protesters. And those that, did show up, like in the Common, and by the way, in other places, they were retired and white and retired. So, Dave, please continue. Pick up where you left off.
So it's Point State Park, which is a PA recreational park. So we hold like rallies and stuff. And that's where they would hold it. So we drove up what's called the Boulevard of the Allies toward West Mifflin, where we actually live. We live in a place called West Mifflin, which is kind of like Revere to Boston, Jeff, just to get towards Chelsea, just on the outskirts of Pittsburgh. And then when we drove through, you figured, like from a drone or a helicopter's position, people look like ants on the sidewalk. So we drove through, Jeff. Now they didn't even have the streets. The streets were closed, Jeff. That's how many people there weren't there, buddy. And so they were protesting on the street corners, like where the Boulevard of the Allies separates Grant Street near Allegheny County building, like a Suffolk County building in Boston, Jeff. And, Jeff, they would be lucky if there were maybe 400 to 500 people easy. Even our CBS affiliate, CBS affiliate, Jeff, here in Pittsburgh, the oldest radio station in the history of America, KDKA and TV, said they had to retract their statements, Jeff. And Jeff, speaking of Boston, I'm a member of the WCVB thing on Channel 5. I guess your ABC affiliate, if I'm not wrong, Jeff?
Yes.
And they showed pictures, and it was like, I could tell that was, first of all, that wasn't Boston Common. Jeff, when you look at different angles, and I looked on MSNBC, and you were right. Jeff, it looked like angles because the State House, your State House has got the Golden Dome. Now, I've been to Vatican City when I've been in Europe and been on a med float, the Marines coming home from the Gulf War, Jeff. And we stopped in Israel and we went to, all over the place. We went into Vatican City, Jeff, and tell me if I'm not wrong, Jeff, the St. Peter's Basilica, which has got a dome, is kind of gold on one side. It looked like it was taken from the Vatican because, Jeff, there's no way those pictures were taken from Boston. And they were more fake than pro wrestling, buddy. But long story short, Jeff, these Democrats, this just goes to show you they're doomed in the midterms, buddy. It's going to take for them a miracle to even gain a House seat back. I mean, even in blue Massachusetts, and as far as Seth Moulton is concerned, he would have been my congressman had I lived back home, and John Tierney's another fraud. So, but anyway, Jeff, but that's how it's going on here in
Pittsburgh. Interesting. Dave, I want to ask you this, because, they're getting caught. The media's getting caught. They lied about all of these images. They lied about the footage. MSNBC, I don't know how they survive this. The only way they survive this is if conservatives let them off the hook. They're gone. They're finished. They aired fraudulent footage of a rally in Boston, again, 2017. I was there. I remember we talked about it for days. And it was a Black Lives Matter rally. Marty Walsh was the one who inflamed Boston and said the Ku Klux Klan was coming when, in fact, it was a free speech rally. There were even Bernie supporters at the time who said, we just want to protect free speech. Okay? Anyway, long story short, 40,000 showed up. They took the footage of 2017 with the 40,000 protesters, and it was a sea. It was an army of people. And then all Saturday, falsely portrayed it as, you see, look at Boston. Boston it's an uprising in Boston. Look at this. Look how many people. My God, as far as the eye can see. They deliberately lied and misled the audience and perpetrated a fraud all freaking day. And I want to go back to your point where you said in Pittsburgh, you're saying, Jeff, let me give them 400 or 500 in Pittsburgh, okay? 400 or 500. What was the local media saying? I bet they were saying, what, 4,000 or 5,000, correct? Is that what they were saying? That about 5,000 people showed up, and it turned out again to be 1/10 of what they said? You tell me, Dave, what was the media saying the crowd size was like in Pittsburgh?
The ground footage, KDKA had a pretty good coverage of it, Jeff, and they said that there wasn't as many as they had previously expected. So they had to deflate their inflated numbers like their ego, Jeff. But one more thing, Jeff. Wendy Bell's on the Rumble app, like you are. After I know you put your show on the Rumble app afterwards. Even she was saying on her weekend show, it was like, oh my God, it was like, You couldn't have filled the bar, bro. Jeff, I put it this way. I could have bought everybody around and still have money left in my wallet. That's how many people were there, buddy. In Pittsburgh, they can drink their beer here, Jeff. Yingling beer, that's what they drink.
Dave, that's why you're our Western PA correspondent, my friend. Excellent reporting from on the ground. Dave, thank you so much for that call. That's pretty funny. There were so few people, he could have bought everybody around. And still have money in his pocket. That's a good one. 617-266-6868. No, I'm telling you, this is what happened all over the country. And, and then you watch the Sunday talkies, and they're like, this is the biggest protest in the history of America. Oh, millions and millions and millions rose up. I'm like, where? In your head? Angelo in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Angelo. And welcome.
What a nice fake news weekend again, huh? But anyway, yeah, this is really something else. Macula, did you see in the camera footage someone was dusting off his shoulders? But anyway, the problem with this fake news and all this stuff, that, the left knows that the young vote and the minorities and all that, we're all one now. We know the truth, and that's the left's problem. We know the truth. And what's funny to me is the left named Trump the king. No one else named him the king but the left themselves. And, they should get in line to kiss his ring, because what he's doing around the world in America is something great. Get all these illegals out. Due process. Give me a break. Where was the due process when they were raping people, killing people, running over our own border guards to get in here? Get them out. The people that are here legally with the green cards and everything, God bless them. You did the right thing. We support you. We even support them. We help them, the illegals. But don't forget, they are illegal. What don't they get, the left? How thick are they, Jeff? Yeah, I don't know. Can you tell me how thick they really are?
Well, it's about power. Angelo, you nailed it. It's about power. They're bleeding voters. Nobody will vote for them who's got, really half a brain. Nobody votes for them anymore. Their policies are a disaster. This shutdown, by the way, is turning into a disaster. They're shutting the government down because Chuck Schumer is petrified that he's going to get primaried by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So he's got to get as radical as possible to try to get some of her base to still support him. That's why he's shutting down the government, because the Marxist left in the Democratic Party is now on the march. And the hill they're willing to die on is to give 1.4, to be exact, $1.4 trillion taxpayer money for free health care, and I'm putting free in quotation marks because we're paying for it, to illegal aliens. Now, you're crazy. We don't have 1.4 trillion to give away, and we certainly aren't going to give it away to illegals when so many of our own fellow citizens aren't getting health care coverage themselves, starting with our own veterans, for God's sake. So this is how deranged and disconnected the Democrats have become. So the only way they can survive is by having illegals continue to come into our country and stay in our country, because that's how they keep their representation in Congress. That's how they keep the number of, seats in the U.S. House. And that's how they get a lot of federal money in these blue states, because the census includes everybody, not just citizens. So it artificially inflates their numbers, so they get a lot more money and a lot more representation. And ultimately, what we're finding out, those are their voters. You take away illegal aliens, the Democrats are a minority party. So the illegals now for them are everything. They're everything. 617. That's why they're going to by the way, that's what's really driving the No Kings protest. You asked the number one issue. The number one issue is deportations. Because every illegal that is deported drains the strength and power of the Democratic Party. Angelo, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very quick. You may agree, you may disagree with me, but I just want to throw this. It's a mini log on the fire to answer my own question about why the few protesters that did show up, why so many of them, not all, but so many of them were overwhelmingly white and elderly. As, again, like Sue O'Connell, the reporter, put it, white-haired folks. I noticed with my dad, when he was in his 70s, that it became easier. I'm not saying this happens to all elderly people, because it doesn't. There are many elderly who are conservative and Trump supporters. But I did notice with my dad that it was easier for politicians to manipulate his emotions and to fearmonger him than, especially when he got sick in particular. But even before he got his Parkinson's, it's about when he turned, I would say 72, 73, that, after 70 years old, my dad never bought, when politicians would fearmonger, my dad always saw through it. But I asked him who he's going to vote for at the time, this was years ago, in the federal election up in Canada. And he said, I'm voting for Justin Trudeau. I'm like, Dad, why the hell would you vote for Justin Trudeau? And he said to me, because the Tories, that's the term for the conservatives, he goes, because the Tories are going to gut our healthcare system. And I need healthcare because now he's older. He really needs to, he relies on healthcare. And I said, Dad, I can't believe you're falling for this. I said, Dad, whenever the conservatives have been in power, do they cut anything? Because the government just keeps growing. It just grows slower under the conservatives than under the liberals. I go, Dad, they don't cut anything. Never mind health care. When have they ever cut health care? I go, Dad, they're not going to cut health care. It's fear-mongering. He's trying to scare people like you. And my dad was like, nope, shaking his head. Like in a very stubborn way. Like, nope. They're going to touch my health care. They're going to cut my health care. And, Justin Trudeau, he's going to protect my health care. Well, anyway, look, Trudeau destroyed the country. But okay, Dad, I'm not going to fight with you. I'm not going to argue with you. I even said, Dad, you have somebody that's going to get you to the polls because I wanted him to vote, right? He was, getting more infirm and a little bit sicker at that time. And anyway, I got him. He voted, and he voted for Justin Trudeau. I got somebody to drive him to the polls. But my point is, that stayed with me because I looked at him and I'm like, after a certain age for some people, and I saw it with my dad, you can really scare them. I mean, this BS about taking away your health care, and when you go to the hospital, you're going to have to sit on a gurney and no one's going to take care of you if you let the right come into power or conservatives come into power. I'm like, it works. Like, fear-mongering works because they do become, I don't know, my dad just became more gullible. I mean, God forgive me for saying this, but my sister and I would talk about this. And we were worried. We were like, somebody could easily take advantage of him with his money, with his will, with so many things. And that's why elderly people often are prey to online, online scams or telephone scams, or it's very easy. They become more trusting as they get, some, not all, some become more trusting as they get older. And so my theory is, I'm just thinking of my dad, if Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party, and it was the media as well, they just keep repeating what the Liberals said. Oh, they're coming for your health care. They're coming for your health care. If you're an elderly person, my God, you're going to die right there in the hallway. It worked. We didn't go out and protest, but man, he went out and voted, I'll tell you this. So I'm asking, is this the reason why so many of these protesters tended to be in their 70s and 80s? I'm just curious. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree? Brenda in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Brenda, and welcome.
Yeah. I had quite an experience on Saturday at my local No Kings protest on Rantoul Street, which is only a few blocks away from where I live. I wasn't actually going to go because I wasn't feeling my best that morning. And I went out to my car, and what the hell was walking down my street? I said, I really am not feeling well because I'm seeing things now. I look to my left, and there's this ginormous inflatable bumblebee. I have the picture to prove it. I have the front side. I have the back side holding a No King sign. And I said to God, I go, you want me to go to this, okay? I have this big inflatable bumblebee coming towards me with the sign. So I start cracking up laughing, and I go, okay, get your stuff together. You're going to just walk down a few blocks and see what the hell is going on. It was mostly a tame crowd. I figured I'd be outed because most of my neighborhood, I live in a highly Democratic neighborhood. I'm surrounded, Jeff, okay? And I love my neighbors, and we love each other, blah, blah, blah. And so I did have 3 incidents, all involving women, that turned ugly on me. And I'm not provoking anybody. I'm down there dancing, singing, laughing. I got my earbuds in. I'm whistling. I'm trying to gin up the crowd. It's like, doesn't anybody know how to whistle around here? And I'm just sort of morphing in and out of the crowd, sort of observing, taking a lot of pictures. It was a very highly white crowd. That's not to say that I missed maybe people of color or people of other ethnicities, but it was 99.9% an older white crowd. The 3 incidents that I had with gals that didn't particularly care for me because, one, somebody knew me, and she comes right up to me and she goes, what are you doing here? Almost like I wasn't allowed to be. This is my neighborhood. I've lived here for 25 years. I walk down that street almost every day. And I said, I know I'm in the Lion's Den. I go, but I had to come and see this. And her whole demeanor changed. And she's a lovely woman. She became another person. She took her...
Oh, Brenda, can you hang on? We're up against another break, a hard break. Please, I want to come right back to you. So, okay, let's go right back to Brenda in Beverly. Brenda, so you went to your local No Kings rally, full of Democrats, obviously. You stuck out like a sore thumb. One of them was a neighbor or someone you knew, noticed you, and the attitude, her entire disposition changed. She ran right up to you, and then please pick it up from there, Brenda.
Yes, Jeff, and I have 2 other examples after this. It's hysterical. So she came up to me, and, she was annoyed, and I'm like, we've had sort of a nice relationship, let's say acquaintance, business. I go to a business in Beverly, and all of a sudden she just comes running up to me with her No King sign, puts it right into my face, and then she just walks away. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so instead of getting upset, I just started to laugh. I just said, okay, I understand, I'm hearing you in my head. Liberalism is a mental disorder. I go, she's suffering. She's upset. She doesn't know what else to do. And she just had a moment. Okay. We all have moments. She had a moment. She just couldn't handle the fact that, a Trump supporter, i.e. me, was there. So then I proceeded to walk. It was actually quite large. I don't know the numbers. I'm not a numbers girl, or I don't know, a couple of hundred people. It was much bigger than I expected it to be. So then I keep walking, and then all of a sudden I'm outed by a neighbor. And I figured that because I know a lot of people in Beverly. So I hear, hey, Brenda. And I see this guy waving to me. And so I walk over to him. He's a very lovely man. And so he also said, what are you doing here? Because he knows my politics, and I know his. He's got his Bernie stickers on his truck and whatever. And so I go, I know I'm in the lion's den as a Trump supporter, and I'll tell you that he was in a crowd of people. I have all these eyeballs now looking at me, okay? To which the woman, this is the second woman now, she turns. She must have seen me taking pictures, and she goes, what are you doing taking all these pictures? She starts grilling me. What are you going to do with those pictures? So I'm looking at her, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, I can't believe this. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, to which she gets really PO'd. She goes, you don't know what you're going to do with the pictures that you're taking? Then I start laughing because I'm like, I'm not here to provoke anybody. I'm here to sort of have a good time myself. This is cracking me up. There's people dressed as bumblebees. There was Santa Claus. There was somebody dressed up as a hot dog. There was all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And so she's getting PO'd at me because I'm not telling her what I'm going to do with the pictures that I'm taking, which, quite frankly, is none of her business what I'm going to do with the pictures that I'm taking. She just turns and bristles like, I'm done with you. So then I leave, and I hear my friend, neighbor, say, I could hear him, he goes, she's a nice lady. So he sort of kind of defended me, and I appreciate that. So then I keep walking down the street, and I don't know that I am behind a woman. I'm walking, and she's walking behind me. We have this Katie Porter moment. I hear this woman screaming at me, get out of the way! You're in my shot! I'm trying to take pictures. And I turn and I look, and this is, oh, God forgive me, I said it. There's this old bat. I'm looking at her, I go, what? And she's taking her arm, and like, get out of my way! You're in my shot! And she came flying and almost like knocked me over. She didn't touch me. And I'm just looking at her, and she gave me this sneering, snarling look. And I look back at her and I go, enjoy your protest. And so it's just, that was sort of the attitude and the aura of what was going on there. They had signs. I didn't take pictures of those. I didn't want them in my frame. The F Donald Trump, professionally made flags, the F Donald Trump sign. They had professional flags that said 8647.
They did. So they had 8647. Oh, really?
Oh, there was a lot of those. In fact, there was somebody that I saw walking in my neighborhood. It was a couple. They looked like sort of like, nothing. They're like, okay, look at this couple. And I saw underneath his arm a homemade sign that said, fight democracy, 8647 was a homemade sign. And there was a ton of no king sign, like the gal that came up to me that I do know was an acquaintance that put it in my face. And so, there was singing. They had music in the background. There was a ton of people. I mean, listen, the Beverly is a highly democratic town. And so, there's less of us than perhaps of those of the no kings. And you had asked the audience earlier, why do you think that people have resorted to this? And I just think it's human nature, Jeff. They feel out of control. And any of us, when we feel like we're out of control in a situation, you're frustrated, you feel trapped, you don't know what else to do. So they're doing something. And they're doing a no kings protest, which makes absolutely no sense because Trump is not a king. And I agree with them. There are no kings because we don't have a king.
Exactly.
We have no king.
Well, we just had an election and he won. I mean, I don't know what else to tell him. Brenda,
right.
Honestly, great call. Great call. Thank you so much, and take care, Brenda. No, look, the first No Kings rally, that was in June, accomplished nothing, zero. This No Kings rally is going to accomplish nothing, zero. So you're right, Brenda. It's almost like they're just raging to vent. Like, just get it out of, they feel they're not in control of the country, and just start yelling and screaming and making fools of themselves. But I got to tell you, this stuff about the flags, 8647, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, well, the much-hyped No Kings rally, or to be more accurate, rallies, apparently they took place in over 2,700 cities and towns across the United States. The left is saying it is the media in particular is saying it was the largest, biggest protest in American history. The reality, it's the exact opposite. And the media now is trying to desperately backtrack because they have now been caught in lie after lie after lie, grossly, at times fraudulently exaggerating the size crowd. The most egregious example here in Boston, this is national. This is not just a local story, it's a national story. MSNBC on Saturday put up fake footage, fraudulent footage of a 2017 rally in the Boston Common in which 40,000 people showed up and then falsely claimed that this was live footage of the rally on Saturday. And they did it throughout the entire day to try to give a fake sense of momentum, of these massive, overwhelming crowds. That rally in 2017 had about 40,000 people, and you can see in the images, it's a sea of people. The real rally in Boston, more like 2,000. Now, the other thing, and people were noticing right away, if you remember, that rally in 2017 wasn't in the fall. So you're looking at Boston Common. It's a sea of people, but the leaves are all green. I mean, green, green, green. You look at leaves now, especially in New England, here in Mass, downtown Boston, Boston Common. What's the thing that's most striking about the leaves? They're all changing color. So even that alone should have told everybody watching this, like, hold on, we're getting deep into October now. How come there's the leaves are all on the trees. The leaves haven't fallen yet, or some haven't fallen. There's not one yellow leaf. There's not one red leaf. None of the leaves are changing color. It's all green, 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 like in the summertime. That was the first tell. And now MSNBC had to admit that they used fraudulent fake footage. It is considered now one of the greatest media scandals in American history. Clearly one of the greatest examples of pure media fraud. But they did it on a smaller scale in New York, in Portland, in New Orleans, in San Francisco, in Chicago, everywhere across the country, where they grossly exaggerated the crowd size, oftentimes by 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. We had a call from our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent, Dave, saying I was in Pittsburgh, downtown Pittsburgh, maybe 400 or 500 people. Not 1,000, not 2,000, not the kinds of numbers the local media was saying. Very quickly, this is to all the crazies that turned up at these rallies with their dinosaur costumes and hot dog costumes and frog costumes and cat costumes. This is from 781. Jeff, what this weekend's No Kings protests showed to me is that the mental health crisis is far greater than ever imagined in this country. You're dead on, 781. Okay, this is from 617. Jeff, 2 points. It's not that the silver-haired, bust-in hippies haven't wisened up. It's that they haven't grown up. It's comical to see them holding on to the misguided values of their young adulthood. Grow up. And number 2, kudos to Sue O'Connell, the NBC 10 reporter, who actually on air called out the truth instead of feeding into biased reports. Her credibility as a broadcaster just shot off the charts. Well, she's the one, where she's like, it's a pretty small crowd, right? Like she's on live on the air. Like, in other words, they're going on tens of thousands. And she was like, you're looking at 2, maybe 3,000? And then, of course, the organizers were going on about, it's going to be an army of young people. Black people, brown people, Latino. Trump's white supremacy. They're going to rise up. And she's like, it's mostly older, white-haired folks. In fact, predominantly older, white-haired folks. In other words, this is not what they told us it was going to be. Not even close. Okay, one more, and then I want to go to the phone lines. By the way, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. This is from 603. And 603 makes a very, very interesting point. Jeff, I find that the links that left-wing communists will go to absolutely amazing. One well-known practice of the communists, and this is true, is to empty out the prisons and turn them loose on the population. But I never, in my wildest dreams, thought that the left here in the United States would stoop to this all-time new low of emptying out the old folks' retirement homes and independent living facilities and turn their geriatric brown shirts armed with walkers and canes loose upon us. This is a bridge too far, Kuhner Man. Obviously a lot of it is tongue-in-cheek. But now, the overwhelming overrepresentation of elderly white people, many of them, late 70s and 80s, at so many of these so-called No Kings rallies, honestly, I got to ask myself, did they go into these old folks' homes and say, hey, they pay protesters or they pay Antifa or whatever, you guys want to make a few bucks? Hold on. Can we just rent them for an afternoon? And we'll kind of like bus them to these places and give them signs? I want to know, in all seriousness, did the Democrats go into these retirement homes and living facilities and rent these elderly people as their protesters? I got to ask, because something here doesn't add up. 6-1, and if they did, who the hell does that? Who does that? Well, Democrats do. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Happy Monday to you.
Happy Monday, my friend.
So, Jeff, I like to remind these No Kings idiots that over 77 million people elected Donald Trump to be president of the United States. I think the last time I checked, Jeff, kings don't get elected. Am I right or wrong?
You're completely right.
Okay, and the last time I checked also, 77 million is a hell of a lot more people that showed up Saturday. That's for damn sure. But, Jeff, my question to you is this. What is the FCC's job? Are they just there to sit there with their thumbs up their butts and not do nothing and just continuously let people say and do whatever they want on TV, a la Jimmy Kimmel, a la what they did, MSNBC, what they did Saturday? And also, Jeff, Channel 5 posted the same thing, and I left them a nasty message, which I cannot read on the air, or you'll get fined, and I'll get fined, and I'll probably get thrown in jail. But
Mark, can you do me a big favor? How much time left, Mike? Okay, Mark, please hang on. I want to talk to you about Channel 5, because this is a window into the lies and the misinformation that the local media, not just here, across the entire country. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go right back to Mark in Medford. He was making a stupendous point. Just before I do, and this kind of feeds into, I think, Mark's overall point. This is from Sherry on Messenger. And by the way, I'm getting so many of these kinds of points or comments, either on Messenger, email, the text, from all over Massachusetts, all over Rhode Island, all over New Hampshire. I'm getting it from California. I'm getting it from Texas. I'm getting it from the Pacific Northwest, where people are saying, Jeff, the media is lying. I'm telling you, we went just to see the event, to see the rally, and the turnout was nowhere near what the media was claiming it was, whether on television or radio or wherever. So just as an example, this is Sherry saying, Jeff, she was in Medway. I drove by Medway, the local park, and I saw the quote-unquote Kings rally, the No Kings rally. It wasn't a big deal. It felt like all the cars were ignoring them. No one was honking or beeping in support. And there were lots of older folks. What a joke. What a joke. So, again, a splattering of people here, a splattering of people there, a couple hundred here, 400 here, 500 here. Boston gets a couple thousand. And they're trying to turn this now into millions and millions and millions. Mark, I want to go right back to you. Are you still there, Mark?
I'm here, Jeff.
Beautiful. Mark, you mentioned the local ABC affiliate, WCVB, and how you sent them a message. You were very unhappy with their coverage. For the audience out there, what did local Channel 5 claim, and why were you so angry at them?
They pretty much claimed the same exact thing they said on MSNBC.
So they claimed, what, tens of thousands showed up? Is that what they claimed?
Out at the Boston Common. Yes, it was. And, Jeff, you want to hear something even more funny? That it was also been reported in Times Square in New York City at exactly 1 p.m. Everybody dispersed all at the same time and went home. Geez, is that when they had to punch out, Jeff?
Mike, I gotta. This is incredible. By the way, did anybody at local Channel 5 contact you back and say we regret the error, or we made a mistake, or we'll issue an apology or a correction?
No, Jeff, they didn't comment. What I said to them, Jeff, would get you fired if you said it on TV. But I mean, said it on the radio. But in a nutshell, I basically told them they should be ashamed of themselves, and they should be taken off the air along with MSNBC effective immediately. But, Jeff, like I said earlier, and when I called, I said, what does the FCC do? Do they get paid to sit there with their thumbs up their asses or what? Seriously. Because people are getting away with saying things on TV that shouldn't be said, saying things on TV that are complete lies, but yet they get away with it, Jeff. I mean, what does Trump have to do with this FCC administration?
You're dead on. No, Mark, honestly, you're absolutely dead on. And Mark, I really want to thank you for that call. Really excellent call. Excellent call. No, look, there's a certain point where there has to be journalistic responsibility. And I'm not talking about, well, you give an opinion, I don't agree with that opinion, or when you claim that there's 40,000 people in Boston Common for a rally on Saturday, and it turns out that you used footage from a 2017 rally, which had a completely different issue. Okay, it was a Black Lives Matter rally about allegedly the Klan coming to Boston. It was just 10 people who were going to give a free speak at a free speech rally. There were 10 speakers. Many of them, by the way, some of them leftists and Bernie supporters or anti-war activists. And Marty Walsh, to rile up the city, says literally white supremacists are coming to Boston, and they're going to be speaking at the Common. And word got out into the black community, the black churches. They scared the living daylights out of them. And so 40,000 of them poured out onto the streets. They went nuts. Now, and I know because I was there, I covered it. I was there literally at the Common. So I remember that very vividly. You take footage from 8 years ago and you pass that off now as what happened on Saturday, saying, look at the crowd. This is 40,000 easy. Easy. It was 2,000, maybe 3,000. Fine. Give him an extra 1,000. 3,000 is not 40,000. Using footage from 8 years ago and passing it off like this took place on Saturday, that's fraud. That's propaganda. Now, how do they keep their broadcast license? How do these local stations, I just find this incredible. So how does 400 or 500 now translate into tens and tens of thousands? Like, really, I mean, it's like you look at the camera and you're like, maybe 400, maybe 500. Where do you get? And by the way, whenever I give a crowd size, just so that you know, when we do one of our rallies, I get the police estimate. I give my own opinion. I say, look, it looked to me, whatever, 2,000 showed up, whatever, 3, whatever. But I go, the police, I always go to the police and I say, hey guys, what's your collective opinion? Because they have cops everywhere. One police officer is counting it from one side, the other police officer is counting from the other side, and they always file a report to the local police station. So, rally, it took place, such and such place, such and such time, such and such day, and approximately, 1,000 showed up, 5,000 showed up. So I always use the police estimate and say, well, according to police, this is how many people showed up. They're not using police estimates. It's like they just, out of a hat. Forgive me, out of their rear end. They're just pulling it out of their rear end. And that's how they've gotten now to this 5 million, 7 million. Now they're at 15 million. Every hour it goes up. 15 million around the country rose up against Trump. You combine all the cities, maybe 1 million. Maybe. Okay, and that's only because LA and I think New York had 100,000 or something like that. So 100,000 here, 100,000 there, and then you start, cobbling together other smaller cities and towns, and maybe you get to 1 million. They went from 1 million to 5 million, 5 million to 7 million, 7 million to 15 million. And you're looking around, and honestly, you're like, these are all these former hippies. It's all former hippies. 90% of the crowd are former hippies. Where's your 15 million? It's like, hey, Woodstock is over. Really, hey, did you get the memo? It's over. It's been 60 years. It's over. Now, you want to see the quality of these protests? If I said it, you would not believe it. So listen to this, okay? This is the quality, and I think Mark is onto something. I think the few that did show up, many of them, I believe, were paid. I think there's no question they were paid. Like you're seeing in a lot of these anti-ICE rallies as well. Why? This is a TikToker. I've never heard of her before. Apparently she's, younger TikToker. She's a conservative, who's got a bit of a following on social media. Her name is Caroline Joyous. And this is her posting a video. She's now asking, and this is a younger person now, a bearded protester. This is at a No Kings rally. And the obvious question is, and if I was at the Boston Common as a reporter, this is the only question I would ask. Okay, you're here to protest against Trump. You're saying he's a king, he's a dictator. I get it. What freedoms has he specifically taken from you? Go. I'm just asking. This is your rally. This is what you claim. So just specifically now. So what freedoms have you lost under Trump? What freedoms has he taken away from you? Please go ahead. That's what she asks. Listen now to the response. Roll cut 12, a mic.
I was wondering, you're at the No Kings protest today. I was wondering how President Trump has put your freedom in jeopardy.
I wouldn't say my freedom's in jeopardy.
Yeah. So whose freedom's in? Why are you out here at the No Kings protest, I guess?
I don't know. Hey, lay off the drugs, buddy. I swear. Hey. Easy on that pot. Take it easy with that bong. Easy now. Easy. So, really, well, I wouldn't say my freedom is in jeopardy. Well, okay, so whose freedoms are in jeopardy? Hey, man, I just thought it'd be cool to show up, man. Okay, now, she goes on. She now asks a liberal protester. So what has he done in particular? It's a woman. What has he done in particular, to limit your freedoms, to limit anybody else's freedoms? Like, whose freedoms are being taken away here? Remember, he's a king now. He's a dictator. He's an authoritarian. He's Hitler. He's Hitler. What has he done? Roll cut 12A, Mike.
I was wondering, what has President Trump done to put your freedom in danger?
We have something come to do.
I think that he has done so by sorry, we weren't expecting to be on.
Yeah, we was. I don't know if you heard the last part, but I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting to be put on the spot. So you can't name one freedom that you've lost. You can't name one. There's your dictator for you. These people are so stupid. I'm talking brainwashed zombies, sheeple. Now, this is what I said to Grace yesterday. I said, here, she found this funny. I don't know why, but I said, imagine, I know it was a different time. They didn't have that kind of technology, but bear with me. You go in a time machine and you can bring a camera and a microphone and you go back to July 4th, 1776. Okay? The original No King Rally. The greatest No King Rally ever held. And I'm not talking you talk to Thomas Jefferson or George Washington or Ben Franklin, or John Adams, or no. I'm just talking your ordinary Boston colonist or in Virginia, or pick your colony. And you go, hey, what's that thing you're holding? It's a microphone. What the hell is that? Forget about it. What are you protesting? What is King George III? Could you name me a freedom that he's taken away from you? You know what their answer would be? Do you have all day? How about no taxation without representation? How about the right to free expression? How about the right to freely assemble? How about the fact that they're taking British troops and they're quartering them in every single one of our homes? Do you understand that? We have soldiers now who have literally invaded our homes on behalf of the king. And they just wouldn't stop. It would be all day, how about freedom of speech? How about freedom of religion? How about just go on and on and on and on? You'd be like, geez, you got to overthrow him, guys. I mean, it's pretty obvious. He's taken everything, for God's sake. It wouldn't be, oh, geez, you're putting me on the spot now. That's a toughie. Could you come back another time? Or it wouldn't be, yeah, man, nothing to me. I'm fine. I'm okay. No freedom's been taken away from me, man. These people are a joke. Honest to God, they're a joke. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Mark in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
My man!
How are you, Mark?
Oh, Jeff, I had probably the most fun I've ever had this last weekend.
Trolling them, or?
Oh, yes, my man. So, I've told you in the past, we're a fairly Republican area, up where I am. And I got wind there was going to be a No Kings rally in my town. So I decided I'd go down there and have some fun, Jeff, right? So I drive a black Tahoe, right? So I slow rolled in front of them with my window down and my neck gaiter up and my sunglasses on and my camera out. And I slow rolled in front of them on the side of the road as they're all waving their, no ICE flags and all that. And they're all staring at me trying to figure out who I am. Now, there's probably 75, maybe 100 people. I didn't recognize a single one of them. Like, none of them. I didn't recognize any of them. So I figured I'm going to have some fun. So I went down, I pulled down the side street, pulled into a parking lot across from them. And now I have a replica ICE jersey. So I had that on. I had my thin blue line flag, and I had another flag that's red with a hammer and sickle with a line through it. So I said, I'm going to go have some fun. So I walked down. I stood across the street holding my flags, and they were all shouting stuff. And when I turned around, Jeff, and they saw the back of my jersey that said ICE immigration, they started freaking out, screaming fascist and all this stuff. So I had an orange traffic cone with me. So I started yelling back at them, still your president. And I started yelling all kinds of stuff back at them. So after a few minutes, they're getting really mad that I'm daring to stand across the street from them. So there's two cops that are on their side of the road, and I see this woman pointing at me, pointing at them, screaming at them, telling them to come over and tell me to leave. So the two cops come over. Now, I know everybody in town. I know all the police. They come up to me like, hey, bud, listen, I pulled the neck gaiter down, Jeff, so they could see my face. And they both start laughing, right? And they looked at me. He's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm protesting the protesters. He's like, you're out of your mind. I said, of course I am. So he's like, well, how long are you going to be here? I said, I only got about another 20 minutes. I'm like, because I have stuff to do. He's like, just do me a favor. Don't go across the street. I said, I'm not the one you got to worry about. He's like, I know. So then he walked back across the street, and I hear him tell the lady, sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. She starts screaming at him, calling me a fascist and all this stuff. So I start yelling over the cone, First Amendment! I'm yelling all this stuff back at him. These people are freaking out, Jeff. They were so mad that I was daring to be across the street. But it was all old white people. They had a guy dressed as Ben Franklin. I said, you're all so old, you brought Ben Franklin with you. And I'm yelling at these people. And Jeff, it had to be the most fun I've ever had trolling these complete idiots. Every time they would say something, like they'd start some chant, I would start like chanting, not, still your president. I said, Biden's corrupt. I started shouting all the stuff back at him through my orange cone. It had to be some of the funniest stuff ever, though, Jeff. I wish I should have had it all on video.
Oh, man, I would have posted on an RKO right away. Mark, I got to tell you, man, that is hilarious. Mark, I'm just curious. I got to ask you, I don't want to sound conspiratorial. Look, I'm open to anything, so I'm not saying it happened, but because now it's just everywhere. Everybody's like, well, no, Jeff, these were all like people in their 70s and 80s. They were really like, after a while, I'm like, Mark, do you think, no, really, did the Democrats empty out the retirement homes or go to independent living facilities and, I don't know, rent them out for a day? Or I'm looking at this, I'm like, why? I mean, in so many places, overwhelmingly, predominantly elderly. I'm just curious, Mark, what was your sense watching them? Because you even made the point, you know everybody in town and you knew none of these people. I'm just curious, what's your theory?
Yeah, I didn't recognize any of them, Jeff. And, I have to say, I think the demographic of these people are these, alleged educated people, the ones that voted for Harris, these educated white liberal people. That's who shows up to these things. It's not the working class. It's not the average, man or woman. Since, we know what a man and a woman is, but it's not the average man or woman that's out there trying to earn a living. It's these, well-off, either retired or these, uber-educated lefties that think they're so much smarter than the rest of us, Jeff. And that's who's making up a lot of these crowds. That's why you didn't see, young black men and women there. That's why you didn't see a lot of Spanish people there. It's because, they had better things to do with their time than to run around and throw a temper tantrum because they didn't win the election.
You nailed it. Mark, you absolutely nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Mark, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868. The other thing, and I thought this is Grace's point, and I thought she made it, over yesterday we were just having dinner. And she said, think of all the wasted time and energy of the protesters. Like, if they took all of that energy and time and, I don't know, volunteered for soup kitchens, whatever, feed the homeless, go pick up garbage at the local park, or help clean up the streets in their community. Just pick up all the trash and the garbage. Or there's a million things you could do. How much that would improve our country. Instead, they're just venting, yelling, shouting, screaming like a bunch of children over nothing. Sound and fury, full of sound, as Shakespeare put it, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. It's just like, you want to say to them, get a job. But the problem is they're all retired. And I still say, what the hell? Why don't you work at Walmart? Be a greeter. Do something, for God's sake. Okay. Did you attend any of these No Kings rallies or protests? What did you see? 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Okay, let me ask you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. And the only reason why we're phrasing it this way is because there were 8647 flags at many of these No Kings rallies all over the weekend, in city after city, town after town, including, of course, here in Boston. And so I want to ask all of you, are 8647 flags dog whistles for assassination? 86, as you know, is a common term, especially in the bar restaurant industry, to kill an item, to nix an item. And 47 is obviously, Trump is the 47th president of the United States. James Comey, before he was arrested, put out these seashells in a formation of 8647, which everybody obviously took as his call, as a dog whistle, as a wink, wink. Somebody needs to take out or assassinate the president. So, are 8647 flags dog whistles for assassinating Donald Trump, i.e. the king, the dictator? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in National ER. You can also vote via X, and man, was I active on X last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in National ER. I'm a yes on this. I mean, I don't vote, but if I was to vote, I am a yes on this all the way. I think there's no question that at many of these rallies, they were calling for someone to finish what they started in Butler and take Trump out. But that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. Carol in Norwood. Thanks for holding, Carol, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Carol.
I'll start by saying I listen to you every morning, although I don't agree with you. I find you interesting to listen to. I want to know, I was at the rally in Boston, and I want to know where you got the figure that there were 2,000 people there.
That's what NBC reported.
Well, there were. I didn't count. Obviously, I heard 125,000, but it was
120.
enormous.
125,000 people were at the Boston Common?
Yes.
125. Do you know what 125,000 people is?
Yes, I do, because it was about that number way back in 2016 for the Pink Hat Rally, and it looked about the same. But where did you ever get the idea that there were just so few people? Who's feeding you that it's so totally a lie?
Oh no, the video footage is obvious. Look, I've held many rallies. I know what 2,000 to 3,000 people looks like. Carol, with all due respect, this is exactly why the media has no credibility. There is no way in. First of all, it wasn't 40,000. That's the figure now that's getting them in trouble. To be honest, even the Boston Globe is not reporting 125,000. The Boston Globe is not even reporting 40,000. The Boston Globe is saying tens of thousands. Basically, they're saying 10 to 20,000. And they're being now hammered for that. So even the Globe, no one is making the argument. No one's coming. That's like times 10. Hell, times 15. So what I'm saying is Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 10, Channel 25, the Boston Globe, the Boston Herald, WGBH. I could go on. Nobody's saying 125,000. Yeah, it's the organizers that are saying 125,000. But the organizers are a bunch of liars. You never trust an organizer when they tell you what the number is. An organizer will inflate it by 10 times. Carol?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please, go ahead.
Okay. I can tell you that it was a mixed crowd. I don't know where you're getting the idea that they emptied the nursing homes and was all old people, but it was a mixed crowd. And I have a question also. If the rallies were so totally small and insignificant, why are you devoting a whole radio program to them?
Well, Carol, it's obvious because the media is trying to turn this into this massive blow against the Trump administration, that the country's in an uprising, which is not true. It's blatantly not true.
Yeah.
And they're lying. They're lying about the numbers. They're lying about the figures. And again, look, Carol, I'm very happy that you listened to the show. Honestly, I'm very happy that you called in, and we can agree to disagree. Okay, that's fine. If you think honestly there was 100,000 or 125,000, that's your right. I think you're wrong, but it's a free country. I'd like to ask you a specific question, and I'd like for you to answer it to me as honestly and directly as possible. You attended the No Kings rally, so obviously the assumption is that Trump is a king, a dictator, a strong man, however you want to phrase it. What specific freedom, Carol, has Trump taken away from you? Can you please answer me that question?
No, I would say not from me personally, no.
Okay.
I can't think of one from me personally, but I know that he's...
hold on, Carol, hold on. I promise I'll give you all the time in the world. What about, let's say, family members or friends or neighbors? What freedoms has he taken away from them? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I am very happy to go back to Carol in Norwood. Carol is not a Trump supporter, to put it mildly. She attended the No Kings rally in Boston. And she says the crowd size was about 100,000, 125,000. My answer to her was that's what the organizers are saying, but we can agree to disagree. I then asked Carol what in particular, what freedom has, the king, has Trump taken away from her. She said she can't name a freedom. I then asked the follow-up question, what about her friends, family, neighbors, people that she knows? Has anyone had a freedom taken away from them because of Trump? We had to go to a break. We're back. Carol, please, let's pick up where we left off. Do you know anyone in your circle that has had one of their freedoms lost or taken away because of Trump?
I know this is not caused by the government shutdown, but Trump, besides that, has fired people from the federal government. I have two relatives who lost their job, and again, it wasn't just because of the shutdown. Trump decided to, fire people when he didn't need to. So that's one thing.
Yeah, I know, Carol, I get it, but you don't have a right to a job, right? I mean, I've been fired in my life. I mean, people get fired all the time. You don't have a right to a job. Just because you work for the federal government, you get fired. That doesn't mean he's a king. I mean, if that's the case, my God, I can't tell you how many dictators I've worked for. So what I'm saying is, a job is not a right. Do you follow what I'm saying? So have they had their freedom of speech abridged? Have they can't go to a place of worship? Can they not have freedom to assemble or freedom to protest or freedom to express themselves or have, in other words, where's the attack on democracy? Where is this assault on democracy? Could you explain that for us?
Sure. He is prosecuting his enemies without good reason. The Justice Department is his lawyer now. I mean, I could, I mean, you're very smart. I know your background. You are very smart. You know what Trump is doing, and for some reason that you just keep your loyalty to him. You're right, but you're not blind. And without due process, I'm all for getting rid of fentanyl that's killing all these people, but without due process, he's killing people coming out of Venezuela. He could take over the boat and then try the people. But he's taking away due process from our Constitution. What do you think
Carol,
about that?
No, I hear where you're coming from. I just want to ask you this. Did John Bolton not get due process? I mean, he has a lawyer. He's considered innocent until proven guilty. He says he's going to fight it out in court. The government has amassed, to me, a very impressive case that he clearly took classified information, illegally retained it, illegally transmitted it. So if you commit a crime, you get charged. I don't understand. I mean, Biden went after so many people with Merrick Garland, and nobody on the left said he was a king. And the bigger point is just this, Carol. What, has James Comey not been given due process? Has Letitia James not been given due process? So you tell me, who has not been given due process?
Venezuela. And a lot of the people that ICE is arrested.
Venezuela?
Yes.
I'm sorry now. Who in Venezuela has not been given due process?
The 20 people he shot out of the water.
Oh, you mean the drug smugglers?
We don't. There probably are drug smugglers. Why couldn't the Coast Guard take over the boat and find out who they are and prosecute them?
Well, because they're going to be shot back. That's why. These drug smugglers are heavily armed. They kill people all the time. But Carol, look. But the other thing is, foreign nations, what, does the Constitution apply to the whole world? That's number one. And number two, I'm not trying to play a whataboutism, but, Carol, how many strikes did Joe Biden authorize during his presidency? How many strikes did Obama authorize during his presidency? He blew boats out of the water. He destroyed what he said were terrorist camps. Hell, he even killed Americans who were abroad, claiming they were a terrorist. They were Americans. He never gave them any due process. So what I'm saying, Carol, is you never said Obama's a king. You never said Biden is a king. How come now when Trump does it, all of a sudden the guy's a king?
You know better than that. Come on.
No, honestly, I don't. No, Carol, really, honestly. Maybe you're just smarter than I am, but honestly, I don't. What's the difference between what Obama and Biden did and what Trump is doing?
I won't even address that because I don't think they can compare. But can I just mention one other thing?
But Carol, please, I don't want to argue. I really, you're a very intelligent woman. You're a very civil woman. You're a very civilized woman. I'm asking you in all honesty, why can't you compare the two? Why is it okay for Biden to launch strikes, drone strikes, kill drug cartels, kill terrorists. Obama did it over and over again. But when Trump does it to drug smugglers, 5 boats, 27 people dead, suddenly he's a king. Could you explain the difference?
I wasn't familiar with what Biden did, so perhaps you're right. Can I just mention one other thing? As far as by the way, I think Bolton's case is different from Comey and Letitia James. I think there might be something to that. I really don't have the details. But what about the fact that Trump took classified documents and put to Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah, but Carol, he's the president of the United States.
Oh, so he can do that. Okay, didn't know that. Well, I didn't know that was the case.
Yeah, no, but Carol, literally, the president is allowed. Who's the one that declassifies documents? It's the president. In other words, the Supreme Court has ruled on this, and courts have ruled on this. That's why the case was eventually thrown out against him. When, he's the one that ultimately, it's the president who decides what is top secret, what is not top secret. Like, just to give you an example, Carol, the Kennedy files were considered top secret, classified. Trump declassified them and said, no, I'm telling you, it's no longer, in my view, classified. As the president, he has the right to do that. And he released most of the JFK files. I'm just giving that as an example because everybody knows about John F. Kennedy. Yeah, all presidents, it's not Trump, all presidents have the right to declassify. That's why the case was so pathetic and weak to begin with. Carol?
I'm here. I'm listening.
So I'm just,
okay.
I've got to ask you, because, look, you're claiming the man is a dictator. You're claiming the man is a king. You've got Democrats now saying we need a revolution. Their words, not mine. And that he needs to be overthrown. So, Carol, I got to ask you, do you believe in democracy? Because if you do, Trump won the last election. He won it fair and square. So why do you want to overturn the will of the people? Don't you want to respect the results of the election?
Of course I respect Trump is the president. I never said he wasn't the president. But I believe in democracy, and I believe that he doesn't believe in democracy. Listen, Jeff, I've enjoyed this a lot, but I have to take my dog out now.
I understand. Carol, listen, I appreciate you calling very much. Please don't be a stranger. Call again, okay? Take care, Carol. I appreciate it. Boy, different level of discussion compared to Bill in Sudbury. Or Chris in Gloucester. Say what you want. You get... Yeah, the results are the same. You're right, Sandy. She runs away, but still, it's a coherent sentence. It's a coherent paragraph. You can actually go back and forth. There's no yelling, screaming, talking over you, the same talking point over and over again. So, please, Carol, call again. I want to have as many civil discussions as possible. 617-266-6868 is the number. Larry on Messenger made a very good point regarding my debate with Carol from Norwood. Jeff, remember after Abbey Gate when 13 U.S. service members were killed in Afghanistan after Biden's disastrous withdrawal? Biden then took out a carload of supposed quote-unquote terrorists that turned out to be civilians, including murdering children. I remember that. I clearly remember that. So he ordered a massive drone strike. It was on a car. They claimed it was full of terrorists. It turned out to be a car with children inside. And this was after the debacle at Abbey Gate. So this idea, Trump's taking out drug smugglers, he's a king. Yeah, you never made that argument under Biden. And Trump's not killing children. And then furthermore, and this is Sandy's point, and I think she makes an excellent point, on the classified documents, well, have we forgotten Joe Biden? And how many boxes did he have in his freaking garage? Or that he left at the office or at the University of Pennsylvania, that center? So Joe Biden had classified documents, top secret documents. That suddenly he wasn't a king. I'm just saying, according to Democrats, that was okay. They didn't want to prosecute Biden. Joey for that. Remember, when they investigated it, what was the argument? Well, he's so old and basically senile that no jury would find him guilty. Right. So it's okay for Biden to have classified documents in his freaking garage next to his classic Corvette. But Trump, as president of the United States, doesn't have now all of a sudden declassifying power, which every president has, and took documents with him to Mar-a-Lago. So none of their arguments wash. And I think deep down they know it, which is why Carol said she had to go walk her dog. 617-266-6868.
For this, the Carol is a great lead-in for what I'm about to say.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Russ.
Dissent based on ignorance has no value. The Democrats are guilty of everything they say about Donald Trump. The real wannabe king was Barack Obama. He said he would transform the United States of America, and without President Trump, he almost pulled it off with 12 years of him being the president and his stooge, the idiot.
The President Otto Pen.
Joe Biden, all right? Okay, all right.
Otto Pen.
And then he wanted another 4 years with that other witch, Kamala Harris. Okay? So anyways, all right, there's no question about that. He's the wannabe king. It's not President Trump. And let me tell you what I seen in Andover on Saturday afternoon. Several hundred useful idiots lined up on Route 28 at the intersection of Route 133. And we're talking about an affluent community, people that have a high net worth. And these stupid fools don't understand if the communists take over, the Democratic Party communists take over, they will confiscate your wealth. They'll take your property and everything that you have. And, Jeff, I'm so sick and tired of these stupid idiots, okay? And you mentioned about Ed Markey and Seth Moulton. The one thing is guaranteed in Massachusetts, we replace one a-hole with another a-hole without question, all right? And the older people are in denial what the Democratic Party stands for today. The Democratic Party stands today for Karl Marx. And these stupid people, all right, because a lot of them were hippies and they're dummies from the beginning, okay? But many of them still think that this is the party of Truman and Roosevelt and Kennedy. And remember one thing, all the moderates have been driven out of the party. People like Joe Lieberman have been driven out of the party. There's no question. And they've been replaced with radicals. And fortunately, in the Republican Party, we've gotten rid of a lot of the rhinos, and we've replaced them with patriotic Americans. And all you stupid people out there, do some research and get your head out of your rear end before this country goes down the drain.
Well, Russ, you really put your finger on it. I think part of the reason you're seeing a lot of elderly people show up at these rallies is, I think you're right, a lot of them are these, ex-hippies who never really grew up, honestly, never just got out of their crazy politics of the 1960s. But there is a segment, there's no question, that still live in this, under the delusion that this is, Roosevelt's party and Truman's party and Kennedy's party, and honestly, even to a lesser extent, Jimmy Carter or Bill Clinton's party. They don't realize that under the dear leader, under Barack Hussein Obama, it's not just that he pushed for the transformation of America into a socialist, really a communist state. But remember what he infamously said, Russ, when asked about things that he was doing that were clearly illegal and unconstitutional? His answer was, I have a pen, I have a phone, I can do whatever I want. So where were they under Obama when he was violating the Constitution? Here, let's just take the Dreamers. He literally gave speech after speech saying, I don't have the authority to give a unilateral amnesty. I don't have the power to do that. And then when he needed politically to get more Latino support and more radical left-wing support, guess what? he behaved unilaterally, illegally, and unconstitutionally and created a certain class called the Dreamers. Now, I didn't see the libs and Democrats saying, no kings, no kings, no kings. They loved the dear leader. When he bombed Libya with no congressional authorization, no backing, no approval from the UN, no approval from NATO, never mind no approval from Congress, and launched a regime change war, they never cried. They never once said, Russ, no kings, no kings. Suddenly, Trump is preventing fentanyl from pouring into our country by blowing up these boats carrying drug smugglers, and all of a sudden now, he's a dictator, he's a fascist. Even though presidents have been doing this for 60 years. Russ, final word to you.
Jeff, honest to God, you know how thankful I am that President Trump is the President of the United States. It is unbelievable. We have a businessman that knows how to solve problems. And he's not a scumbag career politician. He tells the truth. He tells it like it is. And stupid, ignorant people like Carol and many others, they'd rather be lied to by con artists and believe the con artists before they believe an honest person that's telling them the truth.
Well, you know, to me, the thing that stood out in my debate with her is when I asked her personally, I said, look, I just want you to be honest. What freedom has he taken away from you? And I got to commend her, honestly. On this, I have to commend her, Russ. She was honest enough to say nothing. And I played clips earlier, of that influencer, that social media person. She went to different rallies and she said, well, what freedom has he taken away from you? And they're like, we can't name one. So you're going to a No Kings rally. You're advocating for the overthrow of the Trump administration, the overthrow of the Trump government, and overturn the results of the election based on the fact that he's a dictator and a king. But when pressed, you can't name one freedom he's taken away from you. I don't know what to tell you. If the man's a dictator, believe me, you ask any Russian, they can tell you every freedom Putin's taken away from them. You go to Xi Jinping, you go to China, they can name you every freedom Xi Jinping has taken away from them. The mullahs in Iran, Maduro, that dictator in Venezuela. I can go place after place, but you can't name me one? And I think, Russ, that says that to me is the ball game. Deep down, they don't even believe what they're saying. It's pretty obvious. Russ, thank you very much for that call. 617, and I think that's why it had a circus clownish atmosphere. Because think of the cognitive dissonance, okay, to use that term that the left loves, okay? Think about it. So on the one hand, democracy is coming to an end. We're in the midst of an authoritarian takeover. He's a king. He's Hitler. Dictatorship. That's what you're saying. And on the other hand, you're dressed up in hot dog costumes, frog costumes, banana costumes, dinosaur costumes. You're playing music. You're dancing on the streets. Which is it? Is it early Halloween and a festival? Or is this a dictatorship? And you can just tell they wanted to go out and blow off some steam, and the media wanted to give them a lot more attention and make it seem they were much more bigger, these protests, than they actually were. They're trying to create a fake story to try to convince people that Trump is on defense, that the country is turned against him, when in fact it's the exact opposite. It was pathetic how low that crowd turnout was. Agree, disagree, and let me just play one other cut, very quick cut. This was in every city. Okay, it was in Boston, it was in New Orleans, New York, Chicago, San Francisco. I could go on. But this just happens to be at Seattle. Okay, they had their own No Kings rally. Again, attendance low, very low. Roll cut 9, Mike.
So Show me what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. No. No. No.
Okay. So, this is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. So, they're trying to, by the way, for the 50th, 5,000th time, what can't these people get through their thick skulls? We are a constitutional republic, not a democracy. Okay? Like, this is what happens when you stop teaching history and civics in school. Okay? They don't even know the form of government they're living under. That's how pathetically ignorant they are. But let that go. Just let that one go, okay? No. This is not what democracy looks like. What you're seeing there, as Russ said, is the ignorant rabble. That's a mob. That's a mob. That's a mob saying, we're protesting against democracy. No, Trump may have won the election. We're not accepting the election. We want him out of power. No, he may have won a mandate to deport all of these illegal aliens. We don't want him to deport all of these illegal aliens, even though he ran his presidential campaign on securing the borders and mass deportations. That and the economy was his number one issue. So this is not what democracy looks like, unless an ignorant, really a rabble of a crowd, a mob, yelling, screaming, shouting, blocking traffic, making complete clowns and asses of themselves. If that's your idea of a democracy, we're in trouble. That's anarchy. That's mob, what the founding fathers called, that's mob rule. That's just people taking to the streets because they don't like the way things are going because they politically lost an election. So, no, this is not what democracy looks like. And if that's your idea of democracy, we got a problem. And again, the crowd in Seattle seemed a little younger, let's put it this way, than the crowd in Boston. Go out and get a job, man. Like, seriously, go pay some taxes, raise a family, do something productive with your life. Seriously, get a freaking job. You know, if you want to do some extra curricular activity, you got a Saturday to I don't know about you. I don't have a Saturday afternoon to just blow off. I got too much on my plate. But if you got a Saturday afternoon, how about the local soup kitchen? How about, hey, in Seattle, how about you pick up all the discarded needles in the parks and on the sidewalks? How about you clean the feces that your mayor allows these homeless people to just dump on? I'm just saying, how about you help remove some of these homeless encampments? Clean up your city a little bit. I'm just saying, do something productive with your life. This is what democracy looks like. You're an idiot. Denise in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Denise, and welcome.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Denise?
I'm better. I found the blood clot in my leg, but I'm better. I'm getting there. Jeff, my grandson called me and he told me there was a bunch of people down in front of the post office in Beverly. And I took a ride down there because I was mad. So I just took a ride down, put my Trump flag on. I went down one side, down the other. They had signs out, dump Trump. Trump doesn't do anything he says. And I yelled something. No, yes, he does, or whatever. But they were all old people. It was just all old people. I didn't see any young people at all downtown Beverly. And she was right. Brenda was right about that. And so Johnny, my friend Johnny, he inflated him into a Trump thing at Swampscott, one they had in Swampscott, and some guy just started beating on him, and a guy ended up getting arrested. He's on the front page of the Daily Item today. He just texted to me a picture of him on there. It was so funny, but yeah, these people are crazy. So, but he said there was only 300 people there, and that article at the Daily Animal says 1,200, and Johnny told me no way, there was only like 300. And then when you were talking about the Boston crowd, and because I heard that too, that there was like thousands of 40,000 people there. Well, I called Channel 5 this morning, and I said, why would you lie about anything like this? I said, why would you lie? I said, how many people in Boston? And they said, well, how many do you think there was? I said, there sure the hell wasn't 40,000 people. And he goes, well, what made you say that? Because there wasn't. I said, you lie. I said, all you people do is lie. You lie about everything. Why do you think people don't even watch your station anymore? I said, why don't you talk about the good stuff Trump does? I said, he's done everything good, bringing peace in the world, getting drugs out of here. I said, he's done everything but good. And all you people do is put him down. I said, won't you get on that station and start saying good things about the man? Because you make me sick. I was just upset about that. And then I wanted to talk to you about the hunting stand they found on the Palm Beach International.
Yes. Denise, let me just quickly set it up for you, okay? This is a big story. If it wasn't for the No Kings rally, I probably would have led with this. So at the Palm Beach International Airport, where Trump flies out from quite often, okay, whether it's on his own private jet or on Air Force One, they found a hunting stand at the airport where if you would put a rifle on that stand, it would be, in other words, it's perfect location and the perfect dimensions to a clean shot to take out the president if he was slowly walking up the stairs. And the police there say this is no coincidence. This is no accident, that they believe there was some kind of an attempt on the president's life, or could have been a setup for an attempt on the president's life. In other words, set up the stand and then smuggle in a gun or a rifle and then wait. And when the time, is right, boom, take your shot, take him out. And in response now to this, President Trump, they've put him on a much shorter flight of stairs. So he gets into Air Force One or his own private jet much quicker. Much quicker. Not those longer stairs where you have to take. They want him in and out because now they're afraid someone may try to assassinate him again. And Denise, forgive me. Let me just say one other thing. Because they're all going on, no kings, he's a dictator. Okay. All of those protests yesterday, these rallies, I don't care whether it was Boston, Chicago, Malden, I don't care, big city, small town, not one of them worried about a sniper on the roof or that masked thugs were going to attack them, beat them, smash their heads in, light them on fire, ram a car into them. They did not have a care in the world. But if you do a Trump rally, especially if the president is speaking, then all you worry about is violence and assassinations and Antifa. Denise, please pick up where I left off.
Jeff, Hitler killed millions and millions of people. Trump saves people. He's keeping this world safe. And I'm sick and tired of these people. I don't know what is wrong with their brains. I don't know what's going on with them. I don't know what they're listening to. But that's those fake news channels. They're not helping us. And I'm beside myself, Jeff. I don't even know.
Look, I've never seen this. Honestly, outside of the assassination of Lincoln, where Southerners were openly calling for him to be murdered, okay? Outside of that, and we had a civil war to get to that point. I've never seen anything like this, where in rally after rally, they're calling for the president to be murdered. You had a state senator in Connecticut. This is another big story. Went to the No Kings rally in Connecticut, and he was saying, he's a doctor, some guy from Pakistan. And he's like, I hope he dies. Hope he dies of cholesterol. Hope he drops dead. Hope he gets a heart attack. 617-266-6868. You can also text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. This is an absolutely a doozy text from 617. Jeff, in New York City, this wasn't a No Kings rally. It was a No Kings farce. The rally was a march rather than a stationary gathering. And according to 617, he said, Jeff, one of my friends who has a podcast live streamed the entire event, and I watched all of it. And what he did, listen to this, was he walked against the direction of the march. In other words, he was able to maneuver past the entire thing. Now, if there were hundreds of thousands of people on the streets, like the organizers and the media is claiming, there's no way he could have done that. And so the texter continues, his crowd estimate was that in New York City, supposedly one of the biggest rallies over the weekend, there was perhaps 10,000 protesters at the very best. And his comment was, it felt as if all of the mental institutions opened their doors and increased the patients. And released the patients. So it's as if all of the mental institutions opened their doors and released the patients. And guess what, Jeff? Trump's poll ratings actually increased over the weekend. That's another thing the media is not telling you. Not only was it a complete dud, a flop, but Trump's poll numbers actually went up a little bit. Okay, very quick. This is from a texter who is reciting or replicating what Laura Loomer posted on social media. And I think she makes an excellent point. Bernie Sanders is such a man of the people that he had a private driver escort him in and out of the No Kings rally in D.C. yesterday, so he didn't have to answer questions or talk to everyday people. Well, there you go. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know. What's the matter, Bernie? I thought you were a working class guy. I thought these are your people on the streets. You're one of them. What's the matter? They take you in a limo, they drop you off, pick you up right away. You don't have a chance to shake some hands, talk to some people, answer a few questions. You phony, you fraud, you. Okay, President Trump. This was his response, and he just dropped the mic on the whole so-called No Kings rally. Quote, here's what he said. By the way, I'm not a king. I work my ass off to make our country great. That's all it is. And that is, by the way, is very true. He does work his rear end off. So the last thing he is a king. Literally, the last thing. Listen now to the piranha. Nancy Pugliosi, she did a Twitter video ahead of the so-called No Kings protest. This is her breaking a crown in celebration of the No King protests. Roll cut 11, Mike.
Going to tear up the crown.
Mike in my ear said, you think the crown was from the Louvre? You know, all that jewelry, all those jewels and the crown stolen in France? And they're, oh, look at this, she's tearing up her crown. Now, one of the things, I swear, that's why I love Trump. And to me, this is one of the greatest times to be alive in the United States. It really is. Because as they're doing these No Kings protests and rallies, Trump, off of the White House website, is just trolling them nonstop. And so one of them, they put out this picture of him, like in this resplendent, you know, like like monarchical like robe, and with this big, beautiful crown on his head. So they're like, "Oh yeah, this is how we dress today." King Donald, ooh, ooh. Or there's another one where it looks like he's like going to pick a hat, right, from one of these drawers, and you see like, Trump 47, Make America Great Again, and beside all the baseball hats is a crown, and you see him grabbing the crown. Oh, that's what I'm going to put on my head today. Let me grab my crown. Or to me, my absolute favorite, is the shot that they released of Trump sitting on his throne, okay, with the crown on him, and to his left is Melania, as in Queen Melania, sitting on her throne with her crown on her head. And then you got to see the responses on social media. He's mocking us. He's mocking us as we're protesting him. How dare he? He's insulting us. Yeah, because that's pretty much what you deserve. 617-266-6868. Mike, is there anybody? Maestro Mike, I have a full board, but you're not telling me who you want me to go to, Mike. All right, so we're going to go to Rob in New Hampshire, but they're telling me that I don't have enough time, so I'm going to come right back to you, Rob in New Hampshire, and we'll take it from there. No Kings rally all weekend long, especially Saturday. Media says 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, the largest protest in American history. And now they've been caught red-handed. 617-266-6868. Okay, by the way, calls, texts today have been outstanding. This one, though, may be the text of the show. 617, listen to this. And no truer words have ever been spoken. Jeff, they don't want no kings. They want their kings. Bingo. Oh, as the French would say, touché, 617. Rob in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Good to be able to talk to you at a normal hour. I usually have to get up at 3 a.m. to listen to you. But yeah, they want their kings because, they skipped right over the primary and just crowned Kamala, if you recall.
That's a great point.
Now, I went to the Portsmouth, New Hampshire event yesterday just to observe, not to cause trouble, just to observe, keep my mouth shut. I had the right to keep my mouth shut, but not the ability to do it. I was wearing a red MAGA hat, and I got there. There were about 200 if you squeeze the number really hard. My van did get attacked. My $130,000 camper van, they broke the mirror because I have an ICE sticker on the back of the van, so they say I was asking for that. And I was in the midst of the crowd. I did some videoing live for Facebook. It was complete lunacy. 50% of the people were the ex-hippies, the 72 years old and over, and the remainder were all ages. But there were a lot of families with little kids, and there were so many great big F-bombs on the signs of these fools, and they brought their little kids to it. I didn't give the families a hard time. I gave the guys carrying the signs with the F-bombs a hard time. So, you ought to be real proud of yourself with that one. The kids are seeing that. It's fantastic. I found out that other people were giving them hell, too. But I went into my...
Rob, sorry. I promise I'll give you all the time in the world. I'm just curious. So when you were mingling in the crowd, videotaping, did you still have your Trump hat on, or did you take it off at that point?
Oh, I would not take it off. I had it on.
You had it on the whole time. Interesting.
Exactly. And I caught a lot of heat for it if I engaged people. Sometimes people would catch me as a passerby and say, God, what are you doing here? And F-bomb this and fascist that. And, really just upset that I was there at all. But I was the only one. I was the only identifiable MAGA person there, which was kind of a drag. But if I didn't engage people, they really didn't notice the MAGA hat. And it was red, bright red.
Well, Rob, I got to ask you, because I've been reading reports, not just about Boston, obviously, or New York, or Chicago, or Portland, or Seattle, or San Francisco, but really I'm talking like New Orleans, Atlanta, like just across the country. And this is and I don't know if it was the same thing happened where you were. Many people are saying, and I just read a text, I think a couple texts, saying it's almost like they released the mental institutions. You had people dressed in crazy costumes. There was one, I didn't want to say it because children were in the car. Parents still drive their kids to school and they listen. But in the shape of a male genitalia. Let me clean it up a little bit. But I mean the full genitalia. In other words, the scrotum, the whole thing. It's incredibly profane, very lewd, very obscene. But they were dressed in male private parts, like costumes. Many of them were furries, where they're literally barking like dogs. Ruff, 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 ruff. And they're being identified as dogs. I swear to you. Or, you have, people in their 70s and 80s in banana costumes and in dinosaur costumes and in frog costumes. They said that there was so much profanity, exactly what you were saying, the F-bomb on sign after sign, that the speakers, it was, I don't mean the occasional F-bomb, it was just F, 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 mother F, I can't say it, the S-word crap. It was like, and there were children in the crowd, there were elderly people in the crowd, and they go, it's like you went into a bar, 3 a.m, last call. That this is everybody is angry. You had some people almost snarling, like mad dogs, like they're just snarling. Did you experience that as well? I'm just curious, Rob. How hateful was the atmosphere where you were at?
The place was lacking greatly for intellect, but it was chock full of rage and hatred and stupidity and obscenity. And yeah, we had the animals, the air-filled animals, the furries, the trannies who were rather aggressive with making themselves known, and lots of 86 Trump.
86-47, right? A lot of 86-47 flags?
Would engage them. Every time I saw them, I'd say, you do realize that's calling for his murder, for his execution, for his assassination. And they wouldn't say a word back. Everybody else I engaged would give me total hell. But those people, the 86ers, would not speak a word to me, which was weird.
So they wouldn't say no, right? When you said to them, hey, you're calling for the murder of the president, they wouldn't say, no, we're not. So basically, their silence tells you everything you need to know. Rob, am I misreading this?
And I think I engaged about 5 of those sign holders, the 86 sign holders. But it did get violent with me.
Oh, what happened? You were assaulted, or?
I went into the cigar store, really nice cigar store in Portsmouth that I've gone to for decades. Bought a $10 cigar. I don't have a lighter or a cutter, so I used their cutter and their lighter and walked out with a lit cigar right into the crowd, and I was going to cross the street. So I had to wait until the street was clear to cross. Well, these people converged on me, 2 men really ripping at me, one hitting me with his sign, bonking me on the head. I put my elbow up to block the sign hitting my head, and they took that as aggression. They flipped when I did that. And so one came right into my face with a clenched fist and a cocked arm, and I looked at his fist and said, "What's that for?" And he wouldn't say. And the one with the sign, right at that point, grabbed the cigar and threw it into the crowd. I said, "Buddy, you owe me $10 for that cigar. I just bought it and just lit it." "No, I don't. I'm not giving you a damn penny." So it went on like that for a while, and then they got very shovey and very threatening. And the old ladies around us and them were saying, "We saw you. You dropped that cigar out of your mouth." Oh yeah, it was like a weird science fiction movie, like they were in a cult.
Where were the police, Rob? Didn't the police make any arrests? Didn't the police at least break it up?
I hollered for the police because they were at every quadrant in the four quadrant event, and I hollered for the police. And the guy with the sign who took my cigar started walking away. I said, "No, you're not going." I took off after him. I said, "I'm going to be on you until you give me my $10. And then he turned around and put the sign between us and went full on shoving me backwards like a football player with those sawhorse things.
Incredible.
And he pushed me right into the cop who was responding to my call. And people...
Oh, my God. No, I mean, they're savages. I'm telling you, what you're describing is these are a bunch of savages. Okay, down the stretch we come. Joan Allen in the great state of Colorado. Thanks for holding, Joan Allen, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, I love Kuhner Country. I'm actually in Brewster now. I'm getting ready to head back there, but I just wanted to let you know I had a neighbor. His father had passed away, so I went over to see him yesterday afternoon. He was at the Hyannis thing. He didn't know. He wanted to take a nice calm ride with his wife, and they got stuck near the airport going to Whole Foods, and they kept calling him a racist, and he is far from a racist. He has a lot of black friends, and, you know, he goes to Jamaica, and so he finally got out of his car, big guy, and he said, "Did you call me a racist?" And the guy goes, "Oh, no, they're all wimpy." And he goes, "He did it over there." And he goes, "Oh, so you're the one that called me a racist." And he wasn't going to hit anybody or anything, but he just wanted to show them, don't start calling people racist when we're not racist. You know, we know how that is. But I also want to say, if Trump's listening, they all should dress up in Halloween costumes with royalty, the cabinet, everybody, and have a Halloween party. But I think that would be great. But, you know, at the rally, they all had cameras. That's one thing he noticed. He said everyone was filming everything. And, you know, people are just crazy out there. And I was impressed with Carol. You know, we have a libtard that actually puts a sentence together, and you were excellent with her. And that's all I had to say. In the Hunters stand, I was going to talk to you about that, so I'm glad you said that, too.
Well, you know, Joan Allen, look, that Hunter stand at the Palm Beach airport was put in the direct line of sight.
Absolutely.
When Trump boards Air Force One. And that's not a coincidence. And I'm very worried about his security. And look, now they're doing protests and rallies. Yeah, they've really grossly inflated the numbers. The media's lying again. But I mean, you know, 86-47, that's the flags now. That's many of the flags they're now flying. So now they're holding rallies and they're openly calling for Trump to be assassinated. This has got to stop. I'm telling you, Joan Allen, this has got to stop. He's had 2 assassination attempts that we know of, and I think they're going to try again. That's my fear. Joan Allen, thank you so much for that call. By the way, Trump came out this morning and made a very good point. He said, look at the signs, the placards. They were all brand new. I mean, not every one, but most of them. Brand new. He goes, I'm telling you, this was funded. Many of these people, it was well paid for. It was well organized. This has George Soros's fingerprints all over it. So they were distributing signs, brand new signs. for, what is it, over 2,000 cities and towns. And I bet you dollars to donuts that many of those protesters were paid protesters. Because Mark, one of the previous callers, is right. At Times Square, you could set your watch to it. But at 1 o'clock, boom, suddenly everybody began to disperse. It's like, what, you only paid us for 2 hours? Well, 2 hours is what you're going to get. Now they're punching their clock. So I think there's no question. Follow the money. Mike in Saugus. Thanks for holding, Mike, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Listen, I went out there on Saturday at the corner of Waters and Main in Wakefield. 250 to 300 people. I was all alone with my Trump sign and my megaphone, and I gave it to them. I had people coming over to me, cheering me on, young kids, college kids, saying thank you. And, these people are just pathetic.
Mike, did you get any blowback from the anti-Trump protesters, the anti-Trumpers?
And yelling at me. I had a couple of people that came over to me, and I told them, get yourself away from me unless you're going to see the other side of me. And they went away. The Wakefield Democratic Party committee went over and grabbed them and said, get away from him. Stay away from him. So, I don't know what to say.
Interesting. Mike, did you notice the same thing, that there was a lot of profanity, obscenity, people in these ridiculous, like Halloween, people in these ridiculous costumes, furries, like, grown men and women barking or meowing? Did you notice any of that, Mike?
Profanity, but they were all dressed up looking like it was a circus. And just acting like a bunch of raving maniacs.
Now, Mike, the point of a protest is ultimately to change people's minds, right? You make your point, and people go, that's a good point. I never thought of it that way. Do you think they changed anyone's mind yesterday?
You can't change their mind. They're too far gone.
No, do you think they changed anybody else's mind, like our mind? Or if you're walking by that protest, you're an independent, or you're on the fence, or you voted for Trump, did any of them, I guess we just lost Mike. My answer is no.